Let's crack open another can of worms and discuss Andrew Mangiapane's disappointing season.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I'm your host, Jess Belmosto, and thank you so much for tuning in. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On NHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Today, we are going to be continuing our down the aisle of opening these cans of worms. Yesterday, it was Tisha Ginla. Today, it's Andrew Mangiapane's disappointing season, back-to-back disappointing seasons, and what lies ahead for him as he enters the last year of his contract. Make sure you are subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. I want to start off by saying that Andrew Mangiapane has been one of my favorite Flames players to watch in the last 4 calendar years of covering this team. He was really starting to break out when I began covering the team in 2020. And of course, we had that, the pause and the bubble and the North Division season. And then we had that really special season with the Flames. And now here we are. So this is with all due respect to Andrew Mangiapane. Like a year ago, I would have said, no, you have to extend him. Now we're looking at things much differently through a different lens. Now that we know which direction the Flames are headed in, this season just wasn't his year. It was a bummer. People were really hoping that he could bounce back a little bit, find that goal scoring edge again. And now that his shoulder was healed and surgically repaired and healed, maybe it would be different. This season, he put up 14 goals with 26 assists for a total of 40 points. Not exactly the most, that's a very low amount of points for someone who is making almost $6 million. And it's tough, right? Because you want all of your contracts to look good. But then when you have certain outliers like the Huberdeau contract or the Mangiapane contract, it stings a little bit because right there you have $16 million tied up in 2 players, and that aren't exactly performing at the caliber you expect them to. But Mangiapane is 28 years old. He just turned 28 in April rather. Sorry. And he is entering the final year of his extension. I think that we all know that he isn't going to re-sign in Calgary. And we're going to talk more about the possibilities of, what that looks like coming up here in a little bit. But this is not a bad thing. I think it's a smart decision. This season was another tough year for him. His line with Backlund and Coleman, that is such a fun line to watch when they are all clicking. Otherwise, you can absolutely tell that there's some sort of disconnect going on. Mangiapane and Backlund play a very similar game. Blake Coleman, obviously, in there too. 2 really strong 200-foot players. And you want more from Mangiapane. And that, I think it's reasonable to expect that. It's not, like coming into the season where people were like, we need more from Kadri. And he had 3 points in 3 games. Like, to me, that's delusional. But wanting more out of Mangiapane and consistently, that is a very fair and reasonable expectation. You are playing him on the third line, and that's, that's that. I mean, most nights it is the third line. Occasionally, depending on the team, it might be the first line. But it's a very unique line. I think that they all clicked immediately once they started playing together. And like I said, that skill set is very attractive, and they're a dynamic group. They have that. They're great forecheckers. They have the ability to set up plays as well as, dismantle them. And they're good. They're not overly physical. I mean, unless you count Blake Coleman, like throwing Connor McDavid as physical. I would say that's probably as physical as it gets. Mangiapane, this just reminded me, had a suspension at the start of last season after cross-checking, I think it was Jared McCann on the Seattle Kraken in the back of the neck while he was down on the ice. Rasmus Anderson's hit on Patrick Laine and Mangiapane's cross-check will never make sense to me. I understand emotions run high. You're grown men. Pull it together. And I understand why you're frustrated. I think it was, not a good way to start the season. Things were getting off slow. You're picking up where you guys kind of left off the season before, hoping and expecting things to be better. I think that the reality of this past season is going to play a big role in the terms of what these players expect for this year and the next few years. And it could be kind of a little bit of an eye-opener. And I think it's going to be interesting to watch that all play out. But especially as players, like, you can't call them your core players because, they weren't part of the Gio Matthew Tkachuk, Monahan, Gaudreau era. But they found themselves in there around that time. So, those contracts are ending. Rasmus Anderson's coming up in 2 years. Mangiapane, Oliver Shillington, like, these are all aging players, but they're from like a different era of the Flames. And I think that we gotta keep moving along and shuffle some new blood in. And we're gonna talk more about potential trades coming up this off season, because there's a long time before we see Flames hockey again, and there's plenty to talk about. But coming up next, we are going to talk about why you shouldn't look into extending Andrew Mangiapane, because you don't need to find yourself in another very sticky situation. But we are going to take a quick break and be right back after this. It's winner take all time in NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. I enjoy betting on games that I'm not entirely emotionally invested in, but could really use a reason to watch and enjoy some excitement. Or, the Bruins and Panthers series, putting together a little parlay of, Matthew Tkachuk shots on net, Jeremy Swayman saves, or the money line, things like that, just to keep it fresh and exciting, even if your team is down and out. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. And thank you for making Locked On Flames part of your day. I appreciate it. Make sure you're listening to us in the car, when you're on the treadmill, when you're out taking a walk, out questioning why you're going grocery shopping on an empty stomach, wherever and whenever you want. But back to something a little bit more serious, right? Andrew Mangiapane is 28 years old. He would be 29 when that contract extension starts. Do you know who else was 29 when their contract extension started? Jonathan Huberdeau. And it just happens to be that way. Both are two very different types of players, but this is a great opportunity for the Flames to learn from the past. And this extending a 29-year-old who third liner who's going to want 7 to 8 years and a raise is crazy. That's absolutely crazy to me. It would be different if he was consistently putting up like 20, 25 goals a season, performing more on the power play, contributing more, just doing something I don't want to say something of value, because obviously his play is value, but something that really impacts the game on a consistent basis. And there's times when you are watching the Flames and you just forget that he's even out there. And you have to really pay attention, because if the announcers don't say his name, sometimes you're like, oh yeah, where was he? When was the last time he touched the ice? But this is a tough call. Like, do not get it twisted. He is a good player. He does have that strong forechecking ability. And with Backlund retiring within the next year or two, you're going to need more 200-foot players. And Mangiapane is a great example of that. And unfortunately, you can't afford to hang on to him and hold on to him. You have to capitalize on this opportunity to flip him at the deadline, at the summer, or during the summer, during the middle of the season, whatever the case may be, right? Like, you have to use this opportunity wisely. Mangiapane would be a great addition to any team that's looking to make a playoff run, right? Like, I'm thinking New Jersey would be a great fit. Winnipeg, you're looking at maybe the Kings, some more East Coast teams, Toronto. He loved playing with TJ Brody. He has a very special friendship with TJ Brody and Mark Giordano, so you have that connection. Boston would be a great fit for him, because they do need more 200-foot players with Bergeron gone and Krejci gone. So, you have that. You have ample opportunities to court your suitors and to find a team that's a good fit for this type of player. I think that what he needs is just an entirely different change of scenery. I think that he needs a place where, we talk about this a lot, but where the skill set is different and it's not kind of redundant throughout the lineup, because you can have 4 or 5 Mangiapanes and Backlunds and Colemans like throughout your lineup, I guess, but like realistically, you want to kind of shake it up and like have everyone like obviously have their strengths and play to those. And you need everyone to have different strengths, because if it's just like the same iteration of the same lines, like you're going to be outplayed, and you're not going to you clearly don't have that oomph. You need to take it to the next level and be competitive. I hope that wherever he does end up going is good. I hope it's a good team. I think that this is really an opportunity for the Flames to just learn and to really declare and to continue down the path of we need to get younger, we need to get better, we need to get more offense going. We have to make the upgrades where we can. Teams are going to be calling about Mangiapane. There's no doubt about that. I wouldn't doubt that, he starts off, he has a good start to the season and we go from there. He's a good player. He's a good player. And this is so silly, but I don't think there's a world where you can offer him a $9 million contract extension and he turns it down. I don't think that's the case. You got real lucky with Elias Lindholm turning that down, which I don't know where we would be today. Would the Canucks be in the playoffs? If they didn't have Elias Lindholm, probably. But anyways, I digress. This is going to be an opportunity for Mangiapane to make the most money that he can. I do not see Brad Treliving in Toronto calling up Craig Conroy or Mangiapane's agent, whatever, get them all on a conference call and saying, we're going to do a sign and trade or something like that. I want to bring him in. I don't see Brad Treliving offering him $9 million. I don't see any team offering him $9 million. I think, quite honestly, he could probably use a little bit of a decrease in pay. I just, he'll probably get 6.57, and that is a lot of money to have tied up for a long time in a player that is 28, 29 years old. I think that the Flames could obviously benefit from Mangiapane. That goes without saying. But if you have this opportunity to trade away an aging player for, a first round pick, a prospect, something that holds more stake and there's a higher reward for it, because with Mangiapane signing an extension like that, you're looking at high risk, medium reward. You're not really looking at a balanced scale, and one does significantly outweigh the other, and that's the risk. You don't want another high risk signing. I don't know. It's truly hard to evaluate who might offer what, because we still have the draft. We all know that people like to get a little trigger happy and trade away future draft picks or next year's draft picks and we're gonna acquire this for that, whatever the case may be, right? So I don't want to sit here and say Nashville's gonna acquire him for this year or next year's first round pick and this prospect, when Nashville in 4 weeks from now says we're trading that pick to whoever. I think just got to keep kind of riding this out, and we're going to talk more about what I think the timeline is and how this unfolds coming up next here on Locked On Flames. But before we do that, I do want to take a quick break and talk to you about one of my favorite apps that will absolutely be getting a workout this summer, and that will be Game Time. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app usually go down the closer it gets to tip-off, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, a view from your seats, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. I used Game time to go to Long Island and watch the Flames and see Mackenzie Weegar score a hat trick. I'm sure I will be using game time to go to a Yankees game or a Red Sox game. Maybe if I'm lucky, I may snag some Noah Hanifin tickets or Zach Bryan. Like there's so many opportunities to take advantage of game time. And you can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater events. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals. And it's the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, and you're following me on X and Blue Sky at Just Belmosto. Andrew Mangiapane, man, like this, if you told me back in 2021 or 2022 that I would be doing an episode where I'm encouraging the Flames to trade Mangiapane, I would have said, you're crazy. What do you mean? The Stanley Cup is right there. They're going to do it. Like, no, I would not have believed you. But here we are. And this is going to be, obviously, an ongoing situation. Mangiapane's camp is very, they don't put out information. Like, I certainly do not see his agent picking up the phone to text Frank Saravalli the latest details. I think that is something that really would just be found out through Central Registry, or if it was big enough, maybe he calls Elliot. Like it's just, I don't know. He's after having multiple conversations with his agent, I find it very difficult to believe that he is someone that's going to pick up the phone and text Frank. But there's like two ways that this plays out. Obviously, you start the conversation of, hey, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? What's your vision? We have our vision, but does it match yours? From both sides. They are incredibly unlikely to approach this the same way they approached Noah Hanifin or Elias Lindholm. It was going to be work to retain or extend either of those players. You wanted to stay competitive. I would have rather have signed Noah Hanifin personally. Nothing against Elias Lindholm. I just think the back end needs a lot of help. But there isn't room to make another risky contract signing. And I understand there's risks with every contract, but there's a little bit more here. Has anyone brought up the idea of a contract extension? What's kind of been floating around? Because you could say, well, PLD got $8 million, 8 years, $8 million. And I would counter back saying yes. And there were conversations of, or speculation that he would be bought out 1 year after that extension was signed. So, it's just so tough. Plus, PLD's younger anyway. So, okay. We can go down that path a different day. But I don't know what's happening or have an idea of what could unfold over the next 4 months. But is this going to be a situation where Mangiapane brings it up in the summer and says, I would like to start the season in a new city? Or I really think that this is going to be like the Zadorov situation, not in terms of like anyone getting on social media and being that, but I think with it happening like around Christmas time, before the All-Star game, I think that that's really what it's going to be. I think, teams are going to be looking to add to their rosters because, like, at that point, 85% of the teams in playoff positions by American Thanksgiving make the playoffs. So why not get a jump start and get the guy acclimated in your organization and figure out what's working? I don't really think it's fair to just bring out the pitchforks and torches and just say, trade Mangiapane. What are we doing? Trade Mangiapane. Every day that goes by is a day wasted. We don't need to do that. I think that that's an overreaction. And that I feel like that even that's like putting it lightly. We know how this is going to unfold. We know that he will be traded. Jess, how do we know he's going to be traded? The Flames need to capitalize on trading their players that, like, they're pending UFAs that they have no business re-signing. And that's the nature of the business. Mangiapane has done a lot for the Calgary community, and that will never go unnoticed. It will go, it's very appreciated. It's not something that people, again, like, take lightly. Being involved in your community as a professional athlete is something that is very special to them. And he is nominated for the King Clancy Award this year, which is very exciting and well-deserved. Him and his fiancée, Claudia, do a lot with Mangia's breadsticks, and making sure that, kids have food and they're playing, like, after-school enrichment activities. Like, there's a lot. And a lot of players do things like that. And it is special. And I think it's really great when you have, like, that guy in your organization. Like Backlund, right? He does a lot too with the animal shelters. Uyghur does the same thing. Like, it's just nice. And it shouldn't go unappreciated or unnoticed. But it should also be stated that the Flames really need to just take advantage of this and get as many draft picks as they can, get as many prospects that, already, like, are on the cusp to being potential full-time NHLers, and get those guys in the organization and just continue down this path. Unfortunately, 7-8 year extension for a 29-year-old player is not realistic for the Flames. It is for a player that is producing like Mangiapane, who has only had one really, like, special season, I guess you could say. It's just not worth the risk. There's better rewards if you do trade him. And that will do it for today's episode of Locked On Flames. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you all have a fantastic evening, day, afternoon, whenever you're listening to this. Please make sure you're following me on Twitter at JessBelmosto. You can find the show wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And I'll be back tomorrow with, maybe we'll have some Flames news, or maybe we'll talk about some Rasmus Andersson, just what his extension might look like in a few years from now. Until then, stay safe, stay warm, stay dry, stay hydrated, and be kind.